It is 7 o'clock, and it is time to call this board meeting to order. This time, I'd just like to take a minute to welcome and thank everybody for coming here tonight. At this time, we would like to stand and say the pledge. The next item on our agenda is to amend and or accept tonight's agenda. And I would like to make one amendment to that. Action item I regarding Stephanie Klein. I'd like to remove that action item. Anybody else have anything?
Kevin, I would like to, I'm not sure it's an agenda, I would like to further the discussion I introduced at the last board meeting in our roundtable regarding schools of choice. I don't know if we make it an agenda item or a discussion item, or I would like to further that discussion tonight.
Okay. Put that at the end of the meeting. Make that an action item. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
Support.
Okay. We have a motion and support to accept tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. At this time, Mr. Brian Purcell is here to speak. Now is your time. Dylan has a mic for you. Okay.
Is it all right while I speak that I remove my mask?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Suzanne Clark, and I am a staff attorney at the Michigan Education Association. And the only reason that I'm here tonight is because Ms. Carrie Guy, who normally is the representative for the McBain Education Association, is unable to be here. So I'm just her stand-in, and I only live an hour north, so that's why I'm here instead of Carrie tonight. Okay? So the reason that I'm here is that I'm here presenting the step of the grievance to the board. Pursuant to the contract that you have, the Education Association and the grievance, the Education Association has filed a grievance regarding the failure to cover one of the employees under the insurance policy, failure to cover their dependent under the insurance policy. And it's the Education Association's position that that dependent should be covered under the rules and regulations of the MESA policy to which you all agreed to. This issue involves Article 17A of the collective bargaining agreement. And I do arbitrations for a job, and so I'm always concerned about what the contract says. And so the contract provision that I believe governs is under Article 17A. And the provision that's important is pretty short, so I'll read it to you. It says, the board, right, that's you all, the board agrees to provide the above-mentioned insurance subsidies for programs within the underwriting rules and regulations as set forth by the carrier in the contract held by the policyholder. So that contract provision says that the insurance rules and regulations are governed by the policyholder in the contract that you all bargained, the MESA contract. So you all agreed to provide insurance under MESA following their policies and guidelines. But in addition, as we all know, we're all governed under law. And under law and the MESA guidelines, all dependents may be covered into the end of the calendar year in which a dependent turns 26 years old. All dependents can be covered to age 26 up to the end of the calendar year in which they become 26. That's a federal law, sometimes known as Obamacare, but that is the law. But in this case, we have a little bit different case. In this case, the dependent at issue on July 28th of 2020 became 26. So under that federal law, at the end of 2020, December 31st, that person would no longer be required to be covered under your insurance policy under federal law. However, under the underwriting rules and regulations to which you all agreed to when you bargained the MESA policy, you can cover dependents if they meet 2 additional requirements. If the dependent is disabled, or if the dependent is still a dependent legally for IRS purposes. I can't just say, oh, my daughter's my dependent. It has to be an IRS dependent providing support, and the dependent has to be enrolled in a full-time college program. In this case, your employee submitted proof to your policyholder and insurance company MESA that his dependent is an IRS qualified dependent. And not only is she a qualified dependent, but she's enrolled in an accredited institution full-time. MESA reviewed the evidence submitted and agreed to continue to provide coverage to that dependent in question. Despite this approval for this continued coverage by MESA, it is my understanding that the administration has decided that this dependent is not eligible to continue coverage beyond age 26. Your business manager and superintendent are correct that at the end of the year, a dependent becomes 26, the coverage ends for most people. However, when a dependent is still a dependent, IRS qualified dependent, like someone who's pursuing a doctorate degree, they're still a full-time dependent, and the policy allows coverage for that type of person. Despite this agreement that you all bargained in Article 17A to follow the contract and the rules and regulations, the administration has refused to allow this to continue coverage. In deference of the actions, in defense of the actions, the superintendent stated in his April 21st denial that, quote, MESA will insure anyone the board will pay for, unquote. That is simply not true. MESA will not cover a dependent who is 27 years old without proof of an IRS dependency and without proof that they're attending a full-time, accredited college full-time. MESA will not cover the superintendent's brother or mother or any other child. So the statement in the grievance defense that MESA will cover whoever the board pays for is legally incorrect. What we're asking for is the rules and regulations of the underwriting policy to be followed and allow a dependent child of a long-term employee, a graduate of McBain High School, who is pursuing her doctorate degree, who's a full-time IRS dependent, full-time student, to continue your coverage. If you decide to not follow the contract, the Education Association will go to the next step, and that is to file a demand for arbitration. And their independent third party, an arbitrator, will decide whether he or she thinks that Article 17A requires the board to follow the rules and regulations of the MESA policy and provide dependent coverage for the person in question today. So we request that on behalf of the McBain Education Association that you allow this dependent to be covered as so long as she is a full-time IRS dependent and a full-time college student. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. At this time, it is time for public comment. So if there's anybody out there that has anything they want to say, now is the time. Dylan has a microphone.
Can I take the mask off?
Please do.
Okay. Okay, so first off, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for our students and our staff and our school this year, because I know that that job up there is very difficult, just like our job in the classroom and our job as parents. So I just want to thank you all. And I'm just here because I just have a few concerns about just the data in the state regarding students being quarantined that are healthy. And so I just wanted to bring a few things up to the board. I had sent an email last week to the principals and to Mr. Knapp, and I just wanted to make the board aware as we go into summer, just to be looking at data of quarantining healthy kids. I just want to have this discussion and have these conversations being taken place before August so that we definitely have a good plan in place going into next year. I think our school has done a great job this year with keeping our kids safe and healthy. And just as a parent and as a teacher, I've just been very pleased all around with what the board has allowed our students to do. I think we've done a great job of keeping them in this building. But now I'm starting to see some changes in the state. And so I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware. Just a couple things. Through my research, I found that unless there's a court-ordered public health order, that the health department has no legal authority to tell schools and to instruct schools that students must quarantine. And so I just want to make sure that those conversations are being had and that people are understanding that there are a lot of schools across the state of Michigan who are ending their quarantines and are finding through the research and the data that they've kept that a lot of the quarantining of healthy students didn't make that much difference. Let's see, where was I at? Didn't really make that much difference when they looked at the total data at the end. So I just wanted to bring up Grand Haven High School. I looked at some of their data. Their principal, Tracy Wilson, put out a study on April 22nd, and I just want to let you know what they found. There was a total of 1,840 students at Grand Haven High School. 1,380 of them chose to participate in person. As of this study, there were 154 cases, of which 53 required contact tracing at Grand Haven High School. Out of the 53 cases requiring contact tracing, 1,011 students were quarantined. Of the 1,011 students quarantined, 11 tested positive, or a 1.1% rate tested positive. So I just want to bring up that a lot of the quarantine students In fact, the research that I've done, about 99% of them are not getting sick. And so I just want to make sure, as a teacher and as a parent, I have had my children quarantined, and I know that a lot of parents have too, and their kids have been home. And we know nothing replaces classroom instruction. So I just want to make sure that we're really moving forward, just trying to make sure that we look at our quarantine guidelines to make sure that we keep these kids in school. And it was interesting because as they went through the transmissivity data, they found out that of the 1,011 students who were not quarantined, the resulting additional cases would have been 2.86 cases year to date, meaning that if they would not have quarantined, the 53 students that did contract COVID, they found that only 56 of those students would have contracted COVID. So I just think that we need to make sure, you know, as a board and as a school, and I know you're doing a good job with that, that we have a policy of, that I guess our policy of quarantining kids is for what reason exactly? I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job right now. I don't know. I know Kent County has decided to end all of their quarantines. I think they ended those last week. And I know it's the end of the school year, and I know that we have a policy in place right now for our close contacts that you have to be, you know, right now it's the 3-foot rule for more than 15 minutes, and then the students are out for 10 days. But I guess I just want to make sure that we look at that, you know, either if that happens today or this week or over the summer for next year. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Dawn. Anybody else?
Test, okay. I didn't plan on saying anything actually, but you did a good job, thank you. Actually, just on the flip side of that, the quarantining, it's, you know, you have a child that's sick. I had many instances where I had a 4th grader that I was afraid to send to school with allergies, or it inconvenienced my family life. We had planned vacations. We had, I have a senior who her time at school is very important to her and to us. I don't want to send my kid to school and have them tell me that my child is quarantined, even though he is feeling well, but just had a close contact with someone in their classroom. So, you know, that's created kind of a lazy attitude, you know, and I'm the parent, but we have a child who would rather, be at home than go to school. I don't understand the, you know, I want to know that there's good data that backs that's keeping our kid at home is good and effective. I'm not seeing that in our household. We've had it affect us many times, and some of it was by choice, like I said. I don't want to be told that 14 days until I can send my kid back to school. I chose many times to have my child just stay at home. Our absences this year were astronomical, which was abnormal and not something that we encourage, but I'd rather be in control of whether or not my child is safe to go to school than have somebody tell me I can't have my child in school. So it's just a super confusing and inconvenient process that I wish made more sense. And I'm sure there's a lot of parents that this affects, and it's frustrating. And when we have jobs and are having to deal with kids at home, we know they're not doing the homework like they should be. They're not in school interacting. There's just a lot of disadvantages, I think, to doing it that way. So I do hope that you do consider an alternative policy next year where it affects the kids that do test positive, not so much the ones that have been in a classroom or, it doesn't make much sense. We have kids that are driving together to school for practice, and you quarantine so many kids. They all get in the same car and go home. I mean, it's just, the contact tracing just doesn't make sense. I don't know how that can be kept accurate and fair to the kids that we're just trying to get them in class and socialize and where they need to be. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I just have some questions about graduation.
Could I ask that members of the public identify themselves when they speak?
Oh, Jessica
That's part of the
Whetstone.
That's part of the Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
Could I have your name, please? Okay. Thank you.
We have not really heard anything about tickets for graduation. What we're getting, I saw that each person got 6 for baccalaureate, and then I saw that the senior honors night was only going to be seniors. Wondering why we can only have seniors at honors night, but we can have band concerts that everybody can go and watch. So I guess what's the plan? We really haven't had any communication about it, and it's only 2 weeks away.
Hopefully, Mr. Biller can add to that with his report. Okay, he's planning on addressing that in his report later in the meeting tonight. Anybody else? Okay. Public comment is closed until the end of the meeting. Moving on to routine matters, we have to approve the minutes from our previous meeting. I guess I'm trusting that everybody took a look at those. Did anybody see any issues? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Support. All right, we have a motion and support to approve the minutes of our April meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? That motion carries.
Are we gonna do the special board meeting minutes too that we got? Was that not?
Wait for one more month.
Okay.
We haven't forgotten. Yes, March 2.
Treasurer's report.
A little highlight of what's been going on in the world of school finance at McBain. We're still waiting approval from the state for 43% of the COVID-2 monies that we submitted in a budget in late March. We understand that the process has been, that they're working it through, and they started on April 24th, awarding to some schools. So hopefully we'll hear soon about that. As you recall, that was a little over, we call it COVID-2, it was a little over $200,000 of items that we requested to help us with COVID-related expenses. The 2021 preliminary budget revision is completed. We're waiting till we want a few more weeks to see, which is very typical of when the numbers come in and so forth. I can tell you it looks positive, very positive. Not ready to predict exactly the number yet until we get a little further down the road, but I am comfortable in saying I believe we're going to balance the budget this year. What I'd like to recommend, Kevin, is that we have a special budget meeting on June 28th,
Okay.
because to give us up more time to just give us time for things to come in and close accounts and so forth. Pretty standard practice to do it that way.
Yeah, it is.
So if you put June 28 on your schedules, please, it would be very good. The 21-22 preliminary budget projection is also complete. We need to do a number of tweaks with that yet. There are some significant things that are happening. I'll be talking about in my report of interviewing and resignations and so forth. So, but we've taken a lot of the scenarios and put that through, and I feel like we're in pretty good shape. And again, on the 28th, we'll be bringing that in for the final.
Okay.
We're also, the cash flow analysis for next year has been completed. It's been submitted to our attorneys at Troon, and we're waiting for them to come back. And again, we'll be probably bringing that to you at the regular June meeting, possibly June 28, depending on how we move along with that. That's an overview. Bills appear to be in good shape, and the things that you received. So, any questions about finances? Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to accept the treasurer's report. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. And now it's on to consider general fund invoices for payment.
I'd like to make a motion to pay checks 15827 through 15848 and checks 71739 through 71813 from the general fund for a total of $522,119.57. And from food services, checks 15860 through 15885 for $22,861.26.
Motion?
Support.
We have a motion and support to accept our invoices for payment. Is there any discussion?
Just one thing is I see there's a bill in there for wireless hotspot service. That's quite substantial. Is that a yearly thing?
Is that one more time?
The the wireless hotspot service for AT&T. It's like 16 grand. Is that yearly or is that?
I would say
Dylan?
that was what we decided on back in November. That's 150 hotspots.
Yep.
But because of billing and trying to get everything figured out, it all came at once. So that's not a monthly expense.
That's all I was looking for.
Yes.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yep.
Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. On to reports and communications. Under my report, don't have a lot to add. Thankful the senior trip got off and everybody come back. That was nice that we could finally get that completed. I really don't have a lot else to report, I guess. So, Superintendent?
Thank you. Again, mine will be fairly brief. Tonight, we're going to, further down the agenda, we're going to be talking about a new position being recommended for the Director of Accountability. We have several other personnel recommendations. I'd like to talk a little bit about Little Wheels. We're making very good progress on the construction, finishing up the building. We have blinds in, sills, wainscoting is nicely started. We're looking forward to when the fence is going to be put up for the playground, extending parking or the driveway into the parking lot. And Wednesday, we're going to be interviewing 7 candidates for the lead caregivers, lead teachers for next fall, for August 23. We have 7 candidates for 3 positions at this point. We're also using, over the next few weeks, we'll be looking at the impact of, we currently have over 40 students that are enrolled for next year, 3 to 5-year-olds. And we are anticipating with those students comes cars and figuring out access, how parents will access and drop their children off. Then we already know we have an interesting situation on the west side of the building when we drop and pick up students. And so we're in discussion with Scott Dunham, with others that are directly involved with how we safely move our children in and out of the building at the beginning and at the end of school. And we'll be giving you a report in June on that, hopefully, and certainly in July, have something ready to go for that. So nice challenges of growth. And the enrollment is, if we really hit some fast. We've kind of tapered off the last week or so, but I don't think that's an unusual situation. A lot of people aren't thinking about school next year yet and so forth. Tomorrow, Kim and I have been invited to talk to the Rotary Club from Cadillac Rotary Club to talk about Little Wheels. Well, they asked me to talk, and I could talk about anything I wanted, but guess what? I'm going to talk about Little Wheels tomorrow. And so ongoing promotion and discussions happening. As Kevin mentioned, I'm so thankful the seniors came back, had a brief conversation with Mr. Vanna. We texted several times while the kids were gone. It sounds like they had a safe trip, and the protocols were followed carefully, so everybody came back healthy to our knowledge. Graduation, Mr. Biller is going to be talking details about that, and I think there's some interesting things going to be discussed. I've been working, I've met with Mr. Acom, I think 3 times to this point. We meet once a week, going over details and transition issues and so forth. I'm going to be seeing him tomorrow afternoon. We're both going to be in attendance at the McBain Education Foundation meeting, and Kevin will be there. After we complete that, we'll be discussing more things. That's my report for tonight, sir.
Okay.
Was that 40 full-time students, Howard, or
No,
are those
they're
40 full-time?
combination full-time and part-time.
Okay.
Is anybody doing that wraparound schedule?
What's
Does
that?
anybody want to do the wraparound schedule with their morning and afternoon?
Well, we are, but
We don't know if anybody's doing that.
Rambler time, thank you. I
Rambler
get a
time,
plug.
I'm sorry.
That's the child care component for the 3-year-olds through 5th grade. That is, we've had some enrollments, but that, again, is something we have to explain a little bit more to folks and so forth. A lot of people have expressed interest. It's just early to predict how many are going to be actually in there. So those that are sitting here, remember, we have Rambler time. We have coverage for youngsters, childcare, from 6:30 in the morning till 6 at night. So for working parents, it's a great option. I was just reading an article. Every day I get what's going on around the state and education, and where the parents in Ann Arbor are upset because they're dropping their child care before and after school, and they're up in an uproar about it. So I hope our parents get in an uproar, they want it and fill it up, so good stuff.
Okay, thanks, Howard. On to our principals. Ms. Kim, you want to go first? Oh, hold on. Dylan's coming.
Just that we're happy to be in school and the beautiful weather. We're excited about that. The kids are loving time together and to have nice weather. We're enjoying 5 weeks, 5 Fridays. We're doing activities called Fun Fridays, where I sneak in a package in their room sometime during the week, and then they come across it, and it has a riddle that they have to solve, and then we're having some fun activities. And they really seem to appreciate it. It's really about morale and boosting, they're tired. They've been through a lot. And so it's really giving our best effort to give them something to look forward to and to keep fighting the fight all the way till the end of the year. So we've really been enjoying that. We are going to be having some modified COVID-friendly field trips in the next few weeks. Most of them are close to home, like a hike to the football ground, football practice field, and a picnic, or down to the city tennis courts. A couple more are a little farther away, but we are using COVID procedures as far as only one class per bus, and they can't be with any other classes while they're there, and masks, et cetera. So they are looking forward to doing that as well. And we're also having a modified field day that's for students only at this time. Again, following COVID procedures, we are rotating sanitizing equipment between each group, and the teacher is traveling with the students rather than someone stationed at each station, which is modified, so that it's all about the kids and trying to get as normal as we possibly can with the remainder of the year. If anyone has any questions, that's all that I have.
Thank you. David?
Good evening. For the middle school, we are in the middle of NWA testing. I know the elementary is too. Did you mention that? So we're looking for student growth, and I think I spoke about that at our last school board meeting. And we are very close to being done. We have finished with the M step, thankfully. It's always a big task to do that, but we got that done. So testing-wise, at the end of the year, we're looking good there, coming along. We did have band concerts, those were mentioned, and they did very well, and I want to commend Mrs. Wiggins on a job well done as well as her students. I know some of you attended them. Very pleased with what the kids were able to accomplish this year, given some of the obstacles that they faced, and Mrs. Wiggins, and all of the adjustments that they had to make. And if you weren't able to watch them, they are on Rambler Review. I suggest you go and check them out. I was very pleased with my middle schoolers and how they performed, and that we got to use the auditorium for that. And I know Mrs. Neverth with the choral department, she had to do something a little different this year, but those things were recorded and put out as well, so pleased with that. Our track teams are doing very well. They just had an invite in Manton on Friday. The boys took second, the girls took third. They brought home some hardware. We've got some new nice looking trophies in the middle school. They have their conference meet Wednesday, so we hope that they do well there. We've got some individuals who really stand out, and both teams really have a good shot at getting the championship. So we look forward to that, and trying to keep things as normal as possible as we finish out the year, finish out strong. We also have some end of the year events for middle school planned. Typically we have our big end of the year field trips, so we're not doing those, but we're doing some of the similar things that elementary is doing with having some sort of field day type things and some time for the kids to get outside and be with their friends in that kind of social setting. So we look forward to doing that. So that is what I have for you this evening. Questions?
Thank you.
Dylan already got me there, Mr. Wisner. Good morning. I'm see if that's too expensive. I won't do that. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you, and good to see some of my seniors back safe and sound. Want to give a shout out to some chaperones for the senior trip. Mr. Gary Vanna and his wife Kathy, as well as Kelly O'Keefe, and also Jill Nevereth. They were the four individuals to take our kids out of state and on a road trip, and everyone's safe and returned that way as well. So really happy we were able to fit that in for the kids, the 34 or 35 that decided to go and stretch that out. I'm very happy for their experience, and thanks to those four chaperones for giving up their time for the kids. So. As you know, this season is very busy, very much similar to the entire school year. We've had to pivot on several occasions as principals, trying to follow guidance and orders that we are bound by with some of our My Safe Start plan. And it's right up until our communication going out for graduation and things, which should have went out this evening. Our seniors are coming back, and the thought is to make sure to wait for the very last point where they were back and then start pressing some of that stuff out. So we have 2 weeks till our graduation. It will be traditionally on the day before Memorial Day, Friday, the 28th, and we'll have that at 7 o'clock p.m., and we're going to have it on our football field again. Very similar to what we did last year. Went off very well, and Jacob and Dylan taking care of the sound. Everybody was very high spirits in the way that we dealt with that. So pray for good weather, and that is going to be our charge anyway, to try to get it to that point. So that's Friday, the 28th. The night before is the 27th, our honors night. As we did last year we had a seniors honors night, but it was all virtual. This year it's in person. It'll be here in the auditorium at 7 o'clock. We have special guests that we invite as well from our foundation board, as well as others to factor into the count. And it is seniors only again this year. With much of COVID and quarantine and things of that nature, we've taken attendance off the books in terms of, it's not really fair to some of the kids to give some kids an attendance award. So we've taken that off, and several other awards that way we've taken care of in-house for students with our teachers individually. So we're going to leave that to our seniors, because our seniors, we want them to have that time in the spotlight. So we're going to be handing out, on behalf of our foundation, as well as Chemical Bank, which is now TCF, and the foundation with Meekoff, some scholarships and some different things that night. And letters should be coming home this week for invitation. And so we'll be getting those out for the following week. So that's, and again, there's no ticket for that. The family can bring as many people as they want. It is only those students who are receiving those awards that'll be having that invitation. So there's a limited amount of students. As every year, that's exactly how we do it, and invitation only, and that's not unlike any other year. So that'll be that. In terms of graduation, a lot of things going on, of course, this weekend with some of the mask and the most updated guidance and recommendations by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that we're kind of held a little bit bound to with our My Safe Start plan. And so, but we're going to be opening up our graduation with no mask, and also having 1,000 limit for people that are going to be doing that. So that information initially should have went out this afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, to parents of seniors and the seniors. Mr. Vanney has pressed out, I think, earlier today to our seniors kind of a how-to with the last 2 weeks of the school year and how that's going to happen. That's to students' emails. So again, we're going to be communicating through emails a lot, and this is normally the case, and we'll schedule some different meetings with seniors as we go to be able to connect with them. So really happy about the ability to open up our campus and be able to hold a graduation here, and should be a good time. What else? As we finish the school year, I want to just take note of our teachers again, and the amount of work that they've put in. To work in the classroom with students, as well as extending themselves. As we end the school year and reflect, I was talking to my staff earlier today about know thy impact, and know thy impact meaning your actions and how you present yourself every day with your students is watched and ever thankful. So whether it be now or even 10 years from now, when you see a student, they'll remember the positive impact that they make. So again, we kind of shared some stories and left on a high positive note because there's enough negativity in the world these days. We want to make sure to be focusing on the good things that we are doing with kids every day. So that's kind of it for me. Is there any questions from the board?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
First one, I got a couple texts after that went out this afternoon.
Okay.
All related to the 1,000 total count, but only 6 tickets per student.
Yeah, we're going to have a process that we have to be able to track the number of students or number of people. So that'll be a ticketing system. Again, we'll put out probably a Google form, I'm thinking, to be efficient with Mr. Vanna, and we'll figure out a way to be able to extend that to as many as the families need.
And when we talk capacity, are we talking the football field and the stands?
Yeah.
And we're only at 1,000?
Well, that's, again, for the size of school we are and the size of fixed seating that we have, that is the capacity.
Okay. I just asked because I saw some pictures of Everett's graduation on Facebook, and they had a pretty full house with no masks.
Yeah.
So I guess, are there any reason why? I mean, is there a,
I'm
could
not
be
sure
somebody
the
here
number.
counting?
I'm not sure of the number
Okay.
of Everett, but I know that area schools are also doing that with Manton and Mesick as well, so.
Also, I had some questions, and I got some letters from some parents about some concern of how slow some of this information has been coming out.
Okay.
Quite a few concerns through Facebook and emails.
Okay. Yeah, and again, to sit in my spot, I don't, there's some days that it changes from every day, day to day, day to week. So some of the orders and things have prevented me from maybe putting out more information to then create more confusion, and that's the attempt, is not to do that. Now that our seniors are back after our trip, we're going to gear down and we have a plan.
Okay.
I apologize if that seems a little late, but that's the logic behind it.
Is there a plan B if it rains?
Yeah, we were kicking around the idea, and I know this is new for everyone, but again, we can have more people outside. It really, I hope we can have it outside to have more people. If we absolutely had to, we would hopefully try to get it in maybe that next day at 1 o'clock or something and get it done with and be out of there. That's kind of my initial plan.
Any more questions for Mr. Biller? Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Moving on to our action items. Action item A, reconfirm the extended COVID-19 learning plan and two-way communication report as presented. I guess I would just like to put my 2 cents worth. I'm not sure, I know it's 15, 16 days left, but do we want to adopt the same plan for the remainder part of this year?
I would not want to re-adopt the same plan. I think it's time to discuss the quarantine situation.
So the quarantine situation that was brought up is directed by the health department. So I think, if I'm correct, Mr. Biller, you attend the meetings weekly with the health department. Am I correct on that?
When they, excuse me, when they do have those, and I'm shared the link to be able to attend those, yeah.
Okay. So have they discussed that at all?
Not recently. They've not actually had one last week and this week, so Thursdays is when they have them, so they wouldn't have one yet this week, but
Okay.
I've not had any other information about that.
Okay. So like Kent County's is fully directed by their health department. So my recommendation would be that it's something that would come from our health department.
Our health department has stated they're not mandating any quarantining.
Okay.
It is up to the district.
Okay.
Yeah, that's partially right, Doug, and it's not. The board in August adopted the plan. The process of, in the plan, I have it highlighted again. We in there said that we would listen to the protocols that Dr. Morris from District 10 put out. It is not a state mandate to quarantine. It is up to the local health department regions and what they do. The article that was in the Kent County, it was in the Kent County area, Ottawa County, Muskegon, over the weekend was inaccurate, and it's created a lot of confusion. I can tell you that the superintendents of Wexford and Missaukee have been lobbying to loosen up the quarantine rules, and that's being taken under consideration. To your point, Kevin, we've adopted these. The numbers are in there. You have just a few days ago before before the school is over, and I think Dawn made a good point. There should be a careful review of where things are before you start the next school year. To do it right now, I don't even know. With everything else that we're in the middle of, it's a good political statement, but I'm telling you, you don't need to do it right now because we're almost near the end.
And I understand that, but I've got a stack of letters here from teachers and.
What's that?
I have a stack of letters here from teachers, from staff, from parents that are all upset with the fact that any day now, their kid could be out for the next 10 days of only 15 days left.
Well,
As far as we've enacted these regulations or these mandates as they've been presented to us, I think when the opening comes to eliminate those, that's the time to do it. That is my position.
So Howard, I just have a question. We adopted this plan back in August, right? And then we've extended it month to month. Is that, am I stating that correct?
yeah, I think, and may I ask the principals, there's some numbers in the plan that relating to students, achievement, some other things, but the basic plan what addresses quarantine recommendations, and that we file and that the district has said it was going to follow for this school year.
And I understand that, but we know a lot more now than we did in August.
Right, just like Saturday, on Saturday, the masking, outdoor masking rules were changed. We responded with the grad, you heard what happened with
That's not changing the fact
graduation.
of sending home healthy kids.
Well,
And as a person that has
all I'm
healthy
going to
kids.
say is, when we're hoping that maybe in the next 15 days, things will change. But the plan that we have is what we have been told to administer. Now, if the board chooses to address that, I guess we have to hurry it up and try to figure out what's going to happen. I don't think you can make a decision tonight. And I'm just telling you, the plan has been carefully administered based on what was thought through last August. And when you go into our elementary classrooms, where it's impossible to social distance those kids more than 6 feet is very much of a challenge. Middle school and high school is a little easier. But I think it's been a fair process, safe process that has been followed.
The safe process may be the case, but when I'm reading these letters from parents, it's far from fair.
Well,
there's parents concerned about whether or not their kids are ready to move on for next year. There's parents that are worried about how many days their kids have spent home. The staff is concerned about kids that are not participating when they're at home. It's a very large percentage.
All true. I don't deny it. We've been dealing with that all year.
I have a wife who sits on pins and needles when they're going to get quarantined. They were quarantined just after spring break.
Okay, go ahead. Call the question, I guess. I don't know what else to say to you. You got a plan, you got to violate the plan, or change the plan.
I'd just like to address that. We've been through a lot since August. I noticed nobody's liked it. Has it been faulty? Yeah, probably. Has the state guidelines been faulty? Probably. Has there been errors at the health department? Probably. Has there been errors here at school? Probably. I think it would be very, I personally feel it would be very unwise to abandon the plan at this point, this close to the end of school. I think it would be very unwise to abandon the plan. We're not through this. And I know there's a lot of division about precautions and masks, and you can argue that all day long. But I think the school set forth a plan. I think they've done a fairly good job of executing it. And I think to abandon it at this point would be an error.
Mr. Knapp, can you explain a little bit what you talked about, the local superintendents and what they're doing?
Well, right on every Thursday, Dr. Morris has a phone call in, and in fact, I talked to Scott Aiken this afternoon about it because he was covering it for us, and his comment was that every superintendent agrees with what Doug's saying, what the parents are saying. We have the plan that was adopted. It's on file, and they promised us they're going to look at the quarantine rules, just like the masking rules.
You're talking for next year.
What's that?
Look at the quarantine rules for,
What, the concern about kids, close contact and
Yep.
kids being sent home,
Yep.
Kevin, that's the issue.
okay.
If someone is tested positive, or a family has COVID, those are pretty clear that they have to stay quarantined. It's the close contact situation that happens when students are in middle school. Each principal has to make a call on how close that is. In elementary, we followed it pretty carefully, that sending classes home because of that. High school, Ryan and Dave have some more flexibility with that as far as if it's 15-minute rule and how close they are and so forth. But it's not a, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. We'll administer whatever the board wants.
What does, Doug, or whoever, what does abandoning this plan mean to you? What does that change?
It changes the fact that if Tommy tests positive, that not every kid around him has to go home.
Okay.
They get to stay in class, they get to continue to study, they get to keep up with their homework.
Would parents still be notified?
Yes.
So then you're going to have half of your kids in class, and you're going to have half of your kids out of class.
That's just what America's built on, risk takers, because
Right, I'm
everybody
just saying
didn't
for the
decide to jump on the ship and come
teachers, you're
over
going to
here.
have half and half.
Not necessarily.
A quarter?
I think you'll be surprised at how many actually quarantine their kids based on that.
Right, they don't.
So really what the issue is the quarantine part of it?
The quarantining multiple kids for one positive test.
Okay. Well, we're not alone in doing that. I had my grandson today because his class is quarantined. Other schools are doing the same thing as we're doing.
Manton Elementary is quarantining only the kid that's
Yep.
tested positive.
I'm just saying that there's other schools that are doing it just like we do.
Right, and there's other schools that have dropped the quarantining.
Yep. So we're not alone.
Anticipating this discussion, the plan, the Michigan Safe Schools Roadmap Safety Protocols was adopted by the board, and I have it here in August at the regular meeting. The testing protocols for students and staff and responding to the district will cooperate with the county health department, number 10, regarding protocols for screening students and staff. And those protocols now are if they have been in contact with them for more than 15 minutes. If it's less than 15, there's some other rules that apply. Principals, am I pretty close so far with me? And that's what we've been doing. I want to go back here. So the plan is here. It is what was adopted, the rules, engagement. This is from Dr. Morris. I'd like to read. Recently, a press release was put out by Ottawa County, Muskegon County, Ionia County, and Kent County that has caused great confusion. One statement made in the press release that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services was turning enforcement of quarantine guidelines over to the local health department. This is not new. There was no epidemic order or state-based mandate that previously addressed quarantines or ordered quarantines for students. This is not new. The authority to order quarantine is held by the local held by local public health, the health officer, and is granted to the health officer by Michigan's public code. 2 weeks ago, I sat in front of the staff and we had a safety meeting for COVID because an employee filed a complaint with my OSHA. We did the safety training. This rule goes back to 1919 when the flu hit in this area, 1918, 1919. And at that time, the legislative body delegated to the health director the ability to protect all of us and pass the rules. Today, local health departments have provided counsel and expertise to school districts, which they have. Without reading everything here, but I'm going to read her summary. In summary, to date, there never has been a state order to enforce quarantine. At the local health department, though we at the local health department have the authority to order quarantine, we have not, nor do not plan to. In other words, they're not going to have across the district quarantine order. Our recommendation is to continue to protect public health and work to end the COVID-19 pandemic are unchanged. If your school elects to ignore or alter public health recommendations, that may be your option. And again, depending on your Michigan Safe Schools preparation plan, which was adopted in August. However, you will be responsible for any adverse events that may result. This is limited to quarantine protocols for K-12 students. The other rules that come into effect, employees, teachers, and some others, are required to quarantine under Michigan law, Public Act 339 of 2020, and as well as my OSHA emergency orders. In other words, there's other agencies that protect employees and adults. Okay. It's not a single, it's not a simple act that you would do. There's other things that would come in effect. That's where I go back to. There's misinformation about what state mandated quarantines. There are no state mandated quarantines. Our local school district has adopted a plan, and that's what your administrators have been doing. And when parents have asked us questions, we have responded and explained it. So that I have nothing else to say about it. It's you got 3 weeks. You got less than 3 weeks to finish school. We got staff to hire. We got just a million things to do.
How many quarantines have we had, principals? How many quarantines have we had? Since spring break? Okay. How about the rest of you?
And no class and no students other than the student who led to this, came out.
Okay, so you've had 2 since spring break.
That's about the same for me, too.
And no other kids tested positive that were quarantined.
Not to my knowledge, but Doug, and everybody, we don't know sometimes, honestly. That feedback does not come back to us sometimes. If a quarantine kid is out, they may or may not test, or we don't know for sure.
So if a class is quarantined, that class isn't tested? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess as principals, what are your thoughts on if a change would occur now, would that be a difficult thing to do, especially this close to the end of the year?
I don't know if I could speak for everybody, Karen, on that, but the whole thing makes us super frustrated because we're about education and kids. We don't want to keep kids out of school. I want to make sure we all understand this. But as principals, we're led to following what a plan is and what we have been held accountable to doing. So we've had some gut-wrenching conversations with parents. We've had, I could say my personal story with my youngest who attends the ISD classroom, who himself has been quarantined 8 times from anywhere from 5 to 9 days. And my family's had to deal with that. I sympathize exactly with what everyone is saying here. at least I'm speaking of myself personally, we want kids to be in school. We want to teach them. And especially with students with special needs in our ELO population and our students that need the most support, we see it. But again, the health experts are the health experts for a reason, whether we like if they're called the health experts or not. And we have our plan to follow, and boy, I just want to get to summer right now, guys. I honestly don't want to make light of it, but it's been a long haul.
I think we've done a pretty good job. I mean, when I'm looking at the statistics here of when kids are quarantined or whatever, we do a pretty good job of keeping in contact with them and communicating them and encouraging them the best we can. I mean, we're in the high 90s where we maintain regular contact with them as much as we can. I think that's to the credit of the administration and that they've done the best they can in a bad situation. I still feel this is not the time to abandon the plan.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept, reconfirm the extended COVID-19 learning plan and two-week communication report as presented?
So moved.
I support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any more discussion? Okay. I'd like to vote on this, but I'd like to do a roll call vote. So, Becky?
Yeah, I support.
Matt?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Denny?
No.
Doug?
No.
Karen?
Yes.
And I say yes too. That motion carries.
Kevin?
Just going back to this is something we expect to see a different plan come next August, correct?
Yes.
We would expect to see changes.
Yeah, if I'm, Becky, if I'm hearing everything that you said,
Sorry.
no, and I want to assure Dennis and Doug and the parents, and we try to assure, this needs to be carefully reviewed this summer.
Okay.
And again, the plan will have to be, the board will adopt based on what's known at that point in time for next school year. And all these different factors and opinions can be weighed in. And at that point, and there's requirements, this plan was put on file with the intermediate school district. It's not done in isolation. And you can't forget about the labor issues. You've got other rules with MIOSHA, the Department of Labor, and then you have the protocols for the students. It's a very complicated situation. And it's frustrating.
Do we have any experts or anybody, I don't know if there's such thing right now, that can come help us with this moving forward? Because yes, I don't want to see my kids sit out anymore.
Yeah, I believe this is a common, in answer to your question, I know the superintendents are working very hard on this.
Okay.
And to bring in other resources to advise might be very, might be the wise thing to do. But I don't think you need to do that right now.
No, but definitely this summer, before next year.
And I know Scott is on top of it. He's in part of, really intimately in part of, since this has hit, and he'll be made aware of what we're talking about tonight.
Okay.
And he might be recommending bringing in a consultant or something, I don't know. But that's a July, August decision, I think.
Okay. Moving on to action item B, the resolution designating local districts election representative for June 7, 2021 biennial election. Do I got to read
Does he
that?
read that?
There's the resolution.
Oh, boy, that's a lot of reading. So,
Well, you know, the long and the short of it is, if you want to make it easier, is you've already appointed Dennis to vote for you.
yep,
Ken is your alternate.
yes,
That's in front of you on the screen. We have two candidates that have filed for the seats, Mr. Kibbe and Mr. Bruni.
Chad Brunick and Harold Kibbe.
So you only have two for two.
Yep,
So it's really kind of a no-brainer. You delegate Hooker to vote for those two, and that's what it says in the resolution.
yes, thank you, Howard. So, yeah, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Support. All right, we have a motion and support. Is there any more discussion?
Well, what time do I got to be there? Does it say?
I think it's 7. And we'll find out for sure. I think it's
Yeah.
7.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Action item C, to accept the resignation of Mary Bruno, library paraprofessional.
Make a motion. Support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes. Action item D, to accept the resignation of Darlene Wiggins, custodian.
Motion.
Supported.
We have a motion and support. Do we have any discussion?
These are going to be all posted, or has this one been posted already? The one for custodian? Custodian
Dar-
position open?
Dar Wiggins.
Is that posted already?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, the question was, is the position, it has been posted, and we do have applicants.
Oh, good. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Action item E, to approve the Wexford-Missaukee ISD general election, general education budget 2020, 2021, and 2021, 2022 as presented. That was in our board packet. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any discussion? Howard, did you have a chance to look at that? And are you,
I'm fine.
you good?
I recommend doing it.
Okay.
So in their general fund, they're projecting a deficit, right? Am I looking at that right? A small deficit?
I believe so, yes, Ken.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Action item F, first reading Neola policies 7540, property inventory. 7455, accounting system for assets. 1422, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 1623, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. 1662, anti-harassment. 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal educational opportunity. 3122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 3123, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in 4122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 4123, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. 4362, anti-harassment. 5517, anti-harassment. 2260.01, Section 504, ADA prohibition against discrimination based on disability. 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities. 5341, emergency medical authorization. 5342, do not resuscitate orders, DNA, for minor students. 5343, physician order for scope of treatment. 7440.01, video surveillance and electronic monitoring. 8321, criminal justice information security, non-criminal justice agency. 8330, student records. 8400, school safety information. 8500, food services. 8510, wellness.
Now, before I feel bad for you, I had to sit through a day of learning what all this is about.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
We have motion and support. Any discussion on all that? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes.
As you look at those, this is our first reading for the audience support, receives policy changes and updates by policy. First reading, and then they look at it, and if they have any questions, then they adopt it the second reading. The board, the language is really, none of these changes anything that we have on the books. It just brings us into compliance with the language for the federal requirements and the state requirements, so it's consistent languages.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And I'm sorry you had to read all this.
Oh, that's all right. That's probably good for me. Action item G, approve the 80/20 staff health insurance premium.
Motion.
Can I ask what that is?
Well, it's annually, we pay, the staff pays 20% of their health, we pay 80%. And this, the new rates is what that you'd be paying 80% of. We're projecting right now, we haven't got the final numbers, but we're projecting could be as high as 18% for increase in costs.
So
We're hoping, that's what we put into the budget. We're hoping that we're being very,
So this would be for
very conservative.
non-bargaining unit personnel then?
I'd have to go back and double check on that, Ken.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Do we have support?
Support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any more discussion?
Howard, I assume there was a study to see which direction seemed to be the least expensive, and this was the one? The 80/20 versus?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
there was. I believe there was.
Yes.
Yes, there was.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. Action item H, to approve new position, Director of Accountability. Howard, would you like to speak on this?
Yes. The position would be a kind of combining a lot of responsibilities that are spread out through several different principals and other individuals that have various responsibilities, from our title programs to school improvement, special education, our ELL program. There's as the district has grown, being over 1,000 kids, and the demands of these various, very special programs and important programs. We feel that having Scott, having somebody direct report to help him with this and consolidate these things is going to make us a better system. And the job description, I believe, is in
Yes.
your.
Yep.
You'll see that it catches a number of very important items, areas, and I'm really quite excited to be recommending that to you tonight.
Okay.
So what we're asking you to do is approve the position, and next month we'll be bringing a recommendation to you for who potentially could fill that position.
Okay.
I have one question at Howard. I've looked at some different schools, and some of them will call it a director of assessment and accountability. Some will call it a director of curriculum and accountability. Did we look at anything like that just to maybe make it a little bit more clear to parents, maybe if that's part of it, or maybe that's not the role, but it is a focus on curriculum and assessment, correct?
This, if I'm hearing everything again.
Sorry.
You're asking me about curriculum and someone that's going to help with the vision of moving us forward in different.
Yeah, and just the title of it, director of accountability. Okay, is it director of curriculum? Is it director of, I guess those are just some words I've seen used. Is a director of curriculum and accountability or a director of assessment and accountability?
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know if those were tossed around.
Yeah, what did you see? And you'll see in there that all the testing would come underneath this person.
Yep.
And that by them looking at the data and the results, if you, I think it's the first or second bullet on there, looking at continuous improvement,
Yes.
where the testing would, as we look at how our kids are doing, what we're doing, this would be a major focus on their part to review curriculum and make recommendations at what areas we should be maybe emphasizing more or not emphasizing more, and so that we can continually be improving.
Okay.
So you're asking just about the title?
Yeah, I was just looking more at the title, just of,
Someone today asked me if we were adding an accounting position.
Right, that's why I guess I'm just a little bit of a clarification.
Someone was wondering whether we were adding an accounting position.
No. Well, that's a position that has been used in other area schools, and it came. That was the title that was recommended to me.
Okay.
Basically, it's come from Scott saying that's
Okay.
what he would call it.
Okay.
Yep. Until about the mid-'90s, I think it was, McBain had a curriculum director for many years, if you remember Miss Milnes. And I've always felt that was cut back in the 95, 96, somewhere in there. And I've always felt that was not a good move because our curriculum alignment at that point needed a lot of work. And there tends to be potentially gaps. So I'm not a great lover of adding additional positions, but especially when, financially, it appears like we're going to be balancing things fairly well. I think it's a good move. I think it's I think keeping our curriculum in line and proper assessments, I think is very important. So I think it's a good move.
I guess there's a lot of duties listed there, and the last one says other duties as assigned. I don't know how many more duties can be assigned to one person.
You don't have that in your job?
I'm getting them, don't worry.
Everybody has that on their jobs.
There goes that custodian opening, right?
Yeah. The only thing I would add to it too is I have spoken to Scott Aikman about this too, and he is very on board with this position. So.
Looks good.
Make a motion that we approve the position of Director of Accountability.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Is there any more discussion?
So this will be an admin position, right? So it'll be outside of the bargaining unit?
Yes, it'd be an administrative position, yes. It'd be a direct line to the superintendent.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes. Moving on to action item J, to approve elementary principal appointment.
As you know, last month, Mrs. Vanderleck chose to retire or start the process. After looking at some of our options, my recommendation to the board is that we appoint David Wisner as the new elementary principal for K-5. David has taught all grade levels. He's had 3 years of successful middle school administration, and I really believe we have a potential. I said to the staff, we have an all-star sitting here among us, can take us to the next level. And I strongly recommend the board that David be appointed to the position.
Okay.
Motion. Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to move David into our elementary principal position. Is there any more discussion or questions for Mr. Knapp? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Welcome, David. Congratulations.
You want to give a speech, David, or?
Action item K, to approve interim superintendent merit pay and extension. I would like to speak on behalf of this action item. Through the course of the year here and how things have gone and how much stuff Mr. Knapp has had on his plate, him and I have had some discussions about that and how this is going to work when Scott comes on board, and then I kind of threw out the idea to him about how far away you're going to be when all this happens, and so then I had a conversation with Scott Acom after we hired him, and just felt him out about how he would feel if we talked Howard into staying on with us for a few months at a lighter schedule than what he is right now. And Scott is very much on board. And how this would work if we were to approve this. Howard would be spending probably 2 days up here, and maybe 1 day back in his home office. We would be putting him up for 1 night a week versus 2 or 3 that we're doing now. The superintendent's office in school would be Scott's office. Howard would not be in there with him. Howard would probably make an office space maybe in the early learning center. And then probably one of the biggest reasons for this is the early learning center. Howard has experience in opening a facility like this. Scott does not have that experience, and so that is kind of one of the main, reasons for acting on this. So that's where that action item come from. Probably through October into November or less if Scott sees fit.
No longer than November.
Yeah, he's.
So Howard's contract is right now through July, right? July 1st?
Correct.
Okay, so it'd be like July, August, September, October, 4 months,
Yep,
probably.
yep. And then it would be, It'd be an amount of 26,000 would be his merit pay. Would it be half of what he's,
Okay. And budget-wise, we're okay?
yep.
Okay.
I think all along, there's a lot of people I thought, there's been an assumption that we would not be able to successfully have Howard walk out on June 30 and the new man step in on July 1. You know, that's just not practical. So I think there's pretty much been an assumption that, that there has to be some crossover. And I think the important point that you made, Kevin, was that effective July 1, the face of McBain will be Scott Acom. And I think that's important. But I don't know, I think it's a very wise move because we've got a lot going on. And I think it would be, Scott is very capable, but we do not want to set him up for failure by stepping into an overwhelming situation. And so I strongly support the move.
We have a lot of teachers to hire, so
A lot going on.
I support the motion. Or I make the motion? How about that? I make the motion.
Okay.
I'll
There you
support
go.
it.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have a motion and support. Is there any more discussion on this item?
So, say Little Wheels is up and running good, does it morph into something different as far as helping in other areas?
Well, I guess one thing that has come up is a bond issue. You know, we don't know where that is or where we're, or when or where we're going to do another one, but that is another area where Howard has been successful. I don't think Scott has. I mean, he's come close, but so that's another area that, yeah, Howard could help with that also.
And again, if the work is over in September, you know, he's gone. You know, he's not
Right,
looking for
yeah.
long-term things.
Exactly.
Is the merit pay then prorated, or is it staying at, I'm asking, I'm,
I think it's per day, correct?
Yeah.
Is that?
per day, okay.
Yeah.
I think there was a 10-day notice clause, so.
Yes.
If we wanted to.
The pay is based on 3 days a week up through, was it October, 1st November, something? And then anything less than that would be, come off that.
Okay, very good.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes. On to action item L, schools of choice.
I asked to have this placed on the agenda tonight. At last school board meeting, we had a roundtable, and I expressed my concern about McBain's approach to schools of choice. And that's a big discussion, and we can't solve that tonight. But I think we need to determine where McBain is at as far as schools of choice. As I understand, the plan is that each year, the board supposedly makes a decision about we are going to be schools of choice or we're not going to be schools of choice. That's my understanding. This board has not taken action since May of 2017 on schools of choice. There's no record of any action, but we continue to do schools of choice. And so my question is, I mean, we have paperwork here that we're going to do schools of choice through 2021. I guess my question is, how does that happen? The board hasn't taken action on it for 4 years. I think we need to determine how we do schools of choice. Maybe why has it progressed without board action? Right now we're declaring that we have unlimited openings. in the last, at least one of the last two bond issues, we asked for additional classrooms. But yet we're saying we have unlimited space. It just does not make sense to me. So I guess I'm saying we need to determine where we're at, because we're coming up on another school year. I don't know how, I had several conversations about this with Dr. Preisel. He was pretty much no help, but he referred me to one of the board policies, which really had nothing to do with my question. But it's important to me that, that we know what we're doing, because I don't know how we've gone 3 to 4 years without board approval. We just automatically do it every year. Automatically, every year we say we're going to have unlimited openings. So I guess I just throw that open for discussion. I don't know if the principals can help with that, or I'm looking for an education as to how we do that. I mean, do schools of choice come to you and then you? I can't hear you. Well, let's say if we had a student that wanted to do schools of choice, would they come to you first?
Yes, they enroll with us, and there's a specific form we fill out.
Okay.
That form comes to us, and then we sign off on it, and it goes to the superintendent's office.
Okay.
And then as far as there's a certain window, they're only allowed to come to a place for a certain,
They're only allowed to come in at a certain window.
Sure,
There's a
yeah.
school a week before.
School starts. And a week before school starts, and then a week after.
Right, right.
There's generally a call made to the district they're coming from, seeking behavior records, and they can be denied based on suspensions. And so that sometimes happens. And it sometimes happens that it's one child in the family who is denied. That has happened as well.
One has been accepted and one denied? Okay. I guess my question is, on what authority are we doing that? The board has not approved that. And I don't know either. I'm just asking. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm trying to determine how we continue to do this year. A real problem going to the taxpayer and asking for more classrooms, and I have a problem with that. And it was an issue at the last bond proposal, that we're building more classrooms and taking in unlimited numbers from neighboring districts.
We have, I believe, closed sections, historically. Over the years, I think we have, like if a grade level is full, we determine it's full, and we can decline certain, that's how we've operated. But as far as board, it just comes top down from our superintendent that we're just going to continue.
Right.
So, and I think it's an agreement with the ISD. You have an agreement, or you say yes or no?
Well, there is I have the one here from last year. It's something that the ISD, but all it does is list the school districts, and that we said we had unlimited openings.
So I think it comes from the
You've brought this up a few times, even as a community member, and I can't explain. I've gone back in my notes and I can't find it. I know it's been discussed a couple of times. All I can say is maybe it was missed last year, year before, maybe it didn't make it in the minutes, heaven forbid, but I can't explain it to answer your question, but I know it has been discussed, and I know the board discussed it and said, at the time, the reason it sticks in my mind is it was a number like 40% of the student population was school of choice, and it was
It's huge.
It knocked me back a little bit, so and then there was specific discussion that month about, and again, I'm not going to try to remember all the discussion, but dollar amounts, athletic teams, all the impact that it would have if we slash, 40% of our kids in a year. So it's a great discussion. We could definitely
Well,
talk about it.
I'm not
but I
saying
don't- I don't-
slashing, I'm saying we
I
need to
don't-
look at what we do going forward.
I don't know that we can answer your question, I guess is all I really wanted
Because,
to
I
say.
mean, let's face it, we do not get funding that fully covers the cost of educating our kids. You know, that's why we have to have bus bonds, that's why we have to have building bonds, that's why we have to have technology bonds. And so, in far as I'm concerned, we're complicating our financial situation because what we get from the state does not cover the cost of educating the kids. That's why we have to have these extra revenue streams. And I think as a board, we need to take a serious look, and we need to do it before next school year. I do not think that we should say automatically, we got unlimited openings this year. I think that would be a huge mistake. So,
Howard?
I don't know.
Is it something that like the executive committee could look at and then have some of the numbers? But I do think, and Howard probably knows this, it's not that we could say we have unlimited, but if we say absolutely none, then, you know, kind of like Matt was saying, we could lose 30% of our student body. I don't know that it's that anymore.
No, once they're here, we would not, well, I shouldn't say that, but typically, once they're here, I think there's language that they stay here through graduation, right? Is that right? So we wouldn't be talking sending 30% of our population home.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
It's just
I
that going
like school-
forward,
I
we
like
would-
schools of choice, but I don't think it should be, maybe we need to make sure it's approved and make sure we have some, maybe that it doesn't say unlimited or something.
I think schools of choice was set up to, if we had excess capacity,
Right.
we would, you know, we would want to bring kids in to fill those slots, you know, but I don't agree that we have to be building classrooms and staff to accommodate schools of choice. It's, we're at 300 or 400, something like that?
Yeah, I can go on with a history lesson here because I've lived in a lot. But to make it short, the whole process was put in place because of primarily school boundaries, students being denied to go to one neighboring school over another, and that conflict, and then that rolled into becoming a competition of perception of one school better than the other and going to the choice. There are procedures that have to be followed about when, it used to be anyway, that you have to declare how many openings you have.
And I think that's probably still true.
And I can tell you, I have a chart on my wall in the office because I pulled it off, and we have a significant number of schools of choice students here in our system. Now, what does that mean? That brings, those students bring 81, 8,200, whatever the membership allowance is for next year. Their parents have to pay whatever the bond issue rates, technology bonds from the district that they're in. They still have to pay that. But the McBain parents are paying for the McBain, as you articulated.
But those the parents of the schools of choice pay that to their district.
Correct.
They don't
That's
pay
what
that
I'm
to
saying.
us.
No, that's exactly.
Right, I understand that,
I'm
yeah.
agreeing with you.
Right.
I'm saying those,
Right.
framing that. So let's look at, like, right now, we're projecting enrollment for next year. Kindergarten, we believe we have to add one section for sure, based on our enrollment. If more kids come in, we might have to go to 5 sections. Now, to your point, if those are schools of choice kids driving those numbers, we should be careful not to overextend ourselves, and all of a sudden we're deficit spending because we don't have enough to bring in. That's the point. What is the plan? I think it really is something that the board ought to have a workshop on. Review. You can look. It won't take long. Take a look at the history in the district, the history of school choice in the state, and then you can make decisions going forward. I don't hear Ken, no one sitting here, and I don't hear Ken saying this, we're not going to say you have to leave because you're a school, because you're already here. Once you make that commitment, you're educating that child for as long as they want to stay. Just like staff. If a staff member lives in Lake City, or if they live in Cadillac, by law, they have a right to have their student be here. There's no choice on that. Just, we have, in Byron Center, for years, I said, anyone who wants to leave, go ahead. But we had no openings because of our growth was so fast. So we did not accept any schools of choice students. Now, the last few years, I think that's, I'm not real sure what has happened, but they're still growing out of sight just naturally. So every situation is different, but the legislators wanted to introduce competition.
Right.
And that, so parents are shopping for test scores, shopping for teacher-student ratios, looking for the best fine arts program, those kinds of things. And that is long and the short of it.
Yep.
So locally, the board should look at its enrollment, K through 12, look at if there are facilities available, look at if there are, what does that mean? I think we have I think 6th grade, David, is going to be a little bit lower next year. And so, well, yeah, there's a little gap there. If there's some 6th graders out there, might be good to bring them in. But what does that mean? You have to look at the long term. What does that mean when they hit high school in total numbers? I think I think what I'm hearing Ken say is, what's the planning?
I'm just asking, let's take a logical approach to it. Let's just not assume it's approved every year. And it appears like that's what's happened, and maybe, man, it's been discussed, it's not in the minutes, and if it's not in the minutes, it didn't happen. So I'm not asking I'm just asking, let's make a logical decision whether we do schools of choice or not. Let's not just forge ahead based on approval 4 years ago. I think it's a serious problem. And I don't really feel like I don't want to compete with other schools. I don't think that's what education is about. I don't think it's about competition, about attracting other students. To me, that's not education. We as a board have an obligation to the students at McBain Rural Agricultural School. That's the oath we took. And we have to give them the best education we can. And I'm not into competing with other districts. We need to educate our kids as best we can, and I don't think education is competitive.
Okay. It's all good discussion. I guess we'll have to put that on our agenda for this coming months and look into it a little deeper.
Well, I wonder because the ones I saw here the action was taken in May. So I don't know what all the deadlines are, but, and it's already approved for 2021. So I don't want another deadline to pass without us at least talking about it.
Let me review that and see
Okay.
where
Perfect.
we're at. But it should be a long-term study, if you will, to take a look at the impact. And
Thank you for giving me the time.
Okay.
And you have a new superintendent coming on that should be part of.
Well, it's interesting that if you remember, all 3 of our interviews for superintendent were asked about that. And none of them really jumped on the bandwagon. They all had, kind of approach. So.
Are you saying it's approved for school year 2021 or 21-22?
2021, according to what I saw. This is something Dr. Preisel gave me. And again, there's no signatures or anything on it. It just lists the districts and it says McBain Agricultural School has unlimited openings. And this is it says the following openings are available for schools of choice transfers for 2021 school year. So it will be the school year ending coming up now.
Got it. Okay. At this time, we're going to open up the floor again to public comment. If anybody else would like to add anything, raise your hand and Dylan will come to you.
James Dannerhood. Just not trying to be a dead horse again here, but just Mr. Biller, I'm praying for sunshine on that Friday night too, but looking ahead, I just looked at it, it's like a 40% chance of rain on that Friday night. Plan B is possibly 1 o'clock on Saturday. Well, we got an open house that day. So, yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, I understand, I'm not trying to put any more on your plate, and, you know, but that's something worth looking into possibly, but I mean, I got people flying in from Texas, I got people flying in from Tennessee, and so. And then also, under the current quarantine guidelines, let's say a group of seniors got together, which they're going to be together, Thursday, Friday, somebody tests positive, are they not allowed to march? Is that under the current quarantine guidelines?
Ryan, got a reaction to that? We just went through that with a senior trip, and we made it through the.
Yeah, the plan we have is currently for our schools and our school events. So it would be for basketball games, it would be for anything that's an event held by the school. So unfortunately, yes, to answer your question, that would be the case, but that's just the reality of what that is right now.
Hi, I'm Olivia Naderhood. So what about like if we just got like a rapid test, say we had to get sent home quarantine, if we took a rapid test that we take for sports and stuff, came back negative, or would we be good again to walk, come back, all that good stuff?
Hello. To answer your question, yes and no. I mean, if you are an athlete that's being tested, that's one thing. But if I can't play out every scenario, everyone, I'm sorry. I don't have answers to every single scenario that you have. So, but I can tell you that right now, the health department and Dr. Jennifer Morse, when I sit in, a rapid test does not excuse a person from a close contact. So I'm just repeating what our Dr. Morse is saying. So if we want to call it a quarantine, then the quarantine, that option is not available.
Okay.
I'm Jen Gildy. I do want to say I appreciate each and every one of you sitting up there. I know that's not easy.
I think the question she wanted to ask was in regards to the quarantine, is it something that's re-upped or reapproved every month? Because you said it was implemented in August, the question became, in our mind, is it on a monthly renewal or is it a one-time 12-month renewal that's implemented in August?
The plan was implemented in August. There was 5 phases. Phase 1 through 3. We're in 4, and rules for 5. What the board was looking at tonight was dealing with reporting of numbers, which is a monthly situation. Walking away from the plan is something that the board would have to take action on, has right to take action on, but what we voted not to do because there's only 3 weeks left of school. And I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but.
Yeah, I believe so, but I'm going with the assumption that you could address the same concerns if brought to the board by a board member next month.
Well.
Go through the exact same scenario.
we made a major adjustment tonight. I didn't think we were going to be able to have up to 1,000 people at graduation because of what happened this weekend of no mask required outside and Michigan High School State Athletic Association's rules for allowing us up to 1,000 outside. So we've adjusted to that. And that, if they make a ruling change on quarantine, we'll do the same thing in the next 3 weeks.
I understand that, but I'm not concerned about their rulings. I'm concerned about your process. Could you address this again next month and choose to make a change?
Could we change it next month? School's out next month.
We reaffirm the plan every month.
Right.
It goes month by month by month, so
That's
next
what I
month
was-
it would
that's
kind
what
of
I
be
was-
of a moot point. Next month would be a kind of a moot point, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Because school will be out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. All right.
But we've taken action every month to reaffirm it.
And that's the discussion about before school starts in the fall. We're going to have some time to see how these numbers are shaking out, what the best thinking is, and then the board can make a decision like it did last August of how the plan that they want to adopt.
Right. Say it is approved, just for scenario's sake, in August, but it's then reapproved every month following, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Great question. I was making it harder than what it was. Sorry.
Again, Jessica Whetstone, I don't want to beat a dead horse either, but I think it's very ridiculous that this cannot be addressed tonight when you have seniors that are going to miss graduation, when you know dang well that they're all getting together outside of school. They just went on a senior trip successfully, and you're going to, again, quarantine and make somebody miss graduation that's not even sick.
I respect your opinion.
I think the issue has been addressed tonight, Jessica. We did address the issue. We
But you
voted-
didn't, there was no public comment after that. And I think it's wrong. I think that if you guys all had, and I know there is 2 people that have seniors up there, and we have done things, and we have done things successfully. And again, it goes back to these healthy kids are getting punished. And I'm a social worker, and I see the mental health that these kids are going through, the mental health issues. You guys would be shocked, the amount of people that we see in the ER. Upwards of 70% of people that go to the ER, teenagers, suicidal, because they are losing things day after day after day. So we're going to quarantine and tell kids that they can't walk because they were around a sick kid and they're healthy?
But this is also a policy for the entire school, not just the 12th grade.
And I agree with, totally understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, Becky, but
Yeah,
how
I
would
mean,
you
it's-
feel if that was your kid?
I get it. I totally get it.
I don't have a senior, and I'm here, probably start crying, just like Jen did.
Could
I
you
got a
identify
junior high
yourself,
kid, and I got a
please?
middle,
It's Erin Cucci. She
sorry,
did.
Erin Cucci.
Okay.
I got a middle school kid, and I got a junior, I got a 5th grader and an 8th grader, and they're both leaving the thing that they're in. Like middle school, and she's leaving elementary. They've missed so much. The anxiety, the fear. Am I gonna get the phone call? And they gotta sit home because they sat next to somebody with COVID. And the kids that are going home quarantine aren't getting sick. And that's what, Mrs. Verbergmos was saying. Like, I'm gonna give a little example. I'm not gonna say names because I'm probably not allowed to, so I'm not going to. But I had a kid in class, I teach PE here, and teacher comes down, she's playing, we're playing dodgeball. It was a reward, right? Comes down, oh, you gotta leave, you gotta go home. Why? Why do I gotta go home? I'm healthy. I gotta go home and sit home for 10 days. And yeah, I know you were saying we're doing a good job making contacts, but that's really hard on the teachers. And that doesn't guarantee that those kids are doing their work either. They're falling behind socially, academically, physically. I teach PE, and the fear, like my son was sitting, waiting for a phone call because he knew in the middle school that there was a positive. He's like, well, I think I was by her, but I don't know. So all night, he's sick with a stomach ache, wakes up the next morning, sick with a stomach ache. Am I gonna have to stay home? Am I gonna have to miss my track meet? I don't have a senior, but it's the same hurts. It's the same, it's school. They're missing things that, for the data, you know, we've been doing this all year, and we've changed things according to what's happening. I feel for the seniors. I can't even imagine what it would like to have a senior, but I do have an elementary kid and a middle school kid, and the anxiety is over the roof, more than you would even imagine. So I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm shaking and probably crying.
You're good.
I'm, Susan Maloney. My classroom's been quarantined, one of the most out of all the elementary classrooms, 3 times. That's not including the November shutdown. That's not including the spring break shutdown. And out of all the students that I've had, none of them have been severely ill or passed it on to others. But my whole class has been shut down. Little girl, she's talking about dodgeballs in my class. I had to walk her out, say I'm sorry. She is going to be drastically behind. We are in the middle of testing. She's missing all of it. When she comes back, she's gonna be sitting in her room by herself, testing nonstop. She's not the only one. I have another one too doing the same thing. And I could reach out to them, I could call them, I could Zoom them, but they have to pick up the phone and they have to do the work at home. They're not. A third of my class, when we shut down, a third every time, is not doing their schoolwork. When they come back, I am constantly trying to catch them up, nonstop. It's been an extreme yo-yo effect. And the mental health, nobody's lying, is off the hook. And the reason why everybody is upset is because you guys are voted in. God bless you for what you're all doing. We appreciate you supremely. But you have the opportunity to do something here to save more or less the health of these young children. I have a little girl today in my class who was quarantined for 3 weeks. And I found out today she is hurting herself. She is cutting herself. She's an ELL. She doesn't have the support at home. She needs to be in school. These children need to be in school. My daughter was a senior last year. She lost a ton. Don't do this to these seniors this year. Please. Let them have their graduation. Let them have their honors night. Let the basketball teams please have their banquets. Why they haven't had their banquets, I don't understand when they both have had outstanding seasons. I'm sorry for being emotional. I'm sorry for yelling. It's out of my character. But I'm passionate about this for these kids. I got into teaching because I love children. I love children. I have 6 of my own, and they're in the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. And it's affected everybody. But you guys have the opportunity to do something. Sorry for freaking out.
So can I just ask, why haven't they had the sports banquets? I'm just asking.
To know that too.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, so I'm just asking.
I guess I'm Jessica Whetstone, and I want to go back to what Mr. Biller said. You know, we've been testing these athletes, rapid tests, for how many weeks? My seniors have been tested almost every day for their senior trip. Thank God they got to go. But he just said they're what, 40% positive or negative? They're not accurate? So why are we doing it?
What do you mean 40% positive or negative?
Right. Accuracy rate. That's the accuracy rate of a rapid test. So if they can do it for a senior trip, why couldn't they do it, like Olivia said, to come back for graduation?
So are you looking for a separate policy for the seniors? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking.
And I think, I again want to talk to the mental health of these students. I would love for you guys to come and follow me around for a day. Love it. Love it. I work crisis work. It is outrageous what these kids are going through. I mean, we are anxious as adults.
Right.
Through all of this. And we have kindergartners cutting on themselves already. I think we have to do something different. I don't know if it's a policy change for seniors. I don't know what it needs to do, but like Susan said, you guys were voted in. I thank you for what you do, but I do think we need to look at this because it is affecting kids more than what you know.
Mr. Biller, I do have a question. I'm Madison Westtown. If, say, like one of us seniors gets quarantined and we don't get to walk, how are they going to get their diploma? I mean, if that hasn't been talked about yet, that's fine, but. Yeah.
What happened last year? I guess I feel like
Well, I guess just like being the senior year that we've had, I guess that would just be the icing on the cake to walk, you know?
In terms of, you know what I'm saying? This is not something that I am choosing to do. This is already a set process in what the health department, so it's kind of above me in terms of changing that process. Does that make sense?
Right, but if we could get like tested before like
No,
graduation.
I understand. That's part of the process, Maddie.
But you guys have to.
So if I'm Heidi Hooker. If Mr. Biller doesn't have the authority, you as a board do. I'm asking for a special exemption of some sort to guarantee if our senior does not have a positive test, that they will be allowed to walk in their high school graduation. And that is something you all can make happen.
How do we address, how do we address, I mean, this isn't the first class, the senior class last year also had the same dilemma, did they not? I mean, I think a lot of things were taken away from them.
I just asked Matt that, and we were kind of just sidebarring it. That was before quarantine even existed.
Okay, so there was no.
Quarantine and all of this new 10-day, 14-day, whatever
Okay.
day, that didn't exist last year.
Well, and I think too, at that point, cases were way more extensive than what they are now. I mean, we're basing decisions off of 2 positive cases in Missaukee County right now. 2.
Our cases have dramatically, I mean, our office was at a 40% positivity rate the last 2 months, and that has greatly declined.
Yes.
Yes, that is a true statement.
I mean, people
Keep in
have
mind
to.
that this is the second year that these kids are being affected.
Yes.
My name is Dawn Verbergmos, and I have 4 teenagers in my home. And yeah, it's hard not to get emotional about this. I get that. And I've been trying to remove myself as mom as I look at this. And what I've really done the last couple of weeks is looked at the quarantine cases, and I've looked at the data. I've read a ton. I've looked at research. I've talked to other teachers, parents, people in other states. I've looked at a lot of information, and I guess what I just want you to think about is 99% of the students that are quarantined are not getting sick. And I think that's just really important for us to look at right now. I do agree with the seniors. I have a senior. I want him to walk graduation night, just like I wanted him to be a part of a lot of things this year. I've really put myself out there to make sure that Grayson's head and his friends, his class has had a great senior year. We've pushed for a lot of things, and the school has done a great job and come through. But I really feel like right now we need to take a serious look at the quarantining issue. And I guess I was really surprised with the vote. I have to say I'm surprised that how that just went through the vote, I guess, with the quarantining. I see court cases being won across the state. I don't know if you know about that. Parents taking the school to court, and they're winning because they want their kids back in school. I understand from a teacher standpoint that it's hard. We're trying to catch these kids up, like Susan said, it's hard. to keep your classroom functioning, the kids that are there, the kids that are absent, the kids that are coming back and have done absolutely nothing. Have we done a great job with communication? Yes. I truly believe that we have done a great job communicating with these kids, but not everybody has that support at home to get that work done. And like Susan said, you're constantly juggling. And I know, Mr. Knapp, you and I had a great conversation in my classroom the other day. I respect you very much. And I do understand where you're coming from. It's the end of the school year. You know, let's just get through the rest of the school year. I get that, but I also get where these people are coming from too with the graduation and still kids just being able to finish the school year with their friends before they go home. You know, being a part of the end of the year activities, super important. My daughter just got out of a 10-day quarantine and missed 2 track meets. That was hard for her, and a whole weekend tournament of volleyball. You know, very hard for her team, very hard for her, and she's not sick. And I had her tested 3 times when she was home to make sure, and all of them were negative. So it's just something, I just don't feel like we can put this to rest right now, just looking at what's happening across the state.
Mr. Biller, can I ask, what's the last day for seniors?
It would be this Friday, 21st.
3 days from now, 4 days from now.
Correct.
Last day for seniors?
Last day for seniors.
Yes, for seniors, right?
Right, yeah.
Last day for seniors is this week, isn't it?
Yes.
He said it's Friday.
On Friday.
Oh, I thought you said, okay. I thought you said June.
I mean, I'm just gonna be, I wondered why everybody was here. So this was kind of, I wish you would have spoke up earlier. I mean, Dawn, you did, but I wondered honestly why everybody else was here. We've had school board meetings where, you know, we've had people come with the exact opposite of we're gonna keep our kids out of school because they don't feel like we're doing enough. We have had a MIOSHA complaint. We have had to file against that and put a notice on our door because somebody didn't feel the same way that some of the parents who are speaking out today do. I work in healthcare, but believe me, I get it. I have seen our cases drop considerably. You know, when we're looking at that vote, you know, there's 3 weeks left and you have the MIOSHA piece, you have the, you know, all of these other things, and I think that's what Howard was getting at, is those are other things that aren't directly affecting those in the room, I guess. So that's the other point of it, and I guess that's where I was looking at it, is you have 3 weeks. But I totally agree with the whole, you know, we want them to walk for graduation. We want them to be able to do these things. And, you know, I don't know, do you say, let's cross that bridge when we get there and have I don't know. I mean, because right now we're going to cross that bridge when we get there for the weather next Friday night.
In some defense of the staff, and the one speaking up now, some of the letters I have when I spoke about earlier are from staff members who were afraid it might be detrimental to their job to speak up.
But Doug, that stuff has got to come to the rest of us before we just show up here and have no idea.
I don't buy that.
Like, I'm not blindsided because I hear scuttle scuttle, but I'm like, where's
There
all
are
of
a
this
few
coming
members of the
from?
staff that are here that asked me to keep their names anonymous that just spoke up. So
Well,
that
okay,
is the
but
case.
we should be an open forum and no one should ever feel that they're gonna be,
But why do
ever
they
feel
feel
that way.
That's my
I don't
concern.
know, that's a concern to me, is why people.
Why do
Why
they
would
feel that
somebody
way?
feel that way? Like, you should
They're
never
right
feel that
here.
way.
They're right here. Well,
Well, then
I
they
would like to
should've
know,
spoke
that blows my mind, because, you know, if you're
mean, I
not willing to
feel
speak
bad.
up, if you're not willing to speak up, you know, what value is that? I mean, this is America. I mean, we're here listening, and why you don't feel to speak to us, that kind of blows my mind.
Hi, Pat Maloney.
Thank you.
I'd like to, I don't mean to put our principals on the spot, but how many kids do we have maskless right now as a number that are walking around the school currently? Yes, mask waivers. How many do we have in mask waivers? Would you happen to know how many have been quarantined? How many have had COVID? No, maskless. Kids that don't wear a mask at school.
Since the beginning of the year?
It's just numbers. It's not people.
Okay, it's time to have this meeting come to a close.
I don't know, like a lot of you are saying these 3 weeks, you know, it's just 3 weeks, it's just 3 weeks, it's just 3 weeks. But in those 3 weeks are these like makeshift field days or field trips that we're trying to do, these fun Fridays that we're trying to do to give a little bit of joy back to these kids, to see a smile on their face. That's just 3 weeks. That's their 3 weeks. So I just want you to be aware that it might be 3 weeks to us who are teaching and working and going to our own jobs, but for them, it's 3 weeks. They didn't get to finish school last year. You know, they didn't get to say goodbye to their friends last year. They didn't get to do field day last year. They didn't get to do their field trips. And these field trips, they're excited to go to the courts in McBain. Like, it's not even an extravagant thing, but they're really excited to have ice cream with their class or pizza with their class. So these 3 weeks for 44, it's a big 3 weeks for these kids. Look, kindergarten through 12th grade. Just to say it's just 3 weeks, it's kind of, I don't want to say flippant, but it is to them. If I were to say that to my 5th grader, it's just 3 weeks. You just got to be home for 10 days. You're just going to miss this. You're just going to miss this. You're just going to miss this. I don't accept that. 3 weeks to us is nothing. 3 weeks to a kid is a lot. It's a lot, especially right now at the end of the school year after a very difficult year. I just wanted to add that. So I hope we don't say just 3 weeks anymore, or just this or just that to these kids, because it's a lot more than just. So let's be aware of that, like just a track meet, just a whatever, just a graduation, just a field day, just a game of dodgeball in the gym. It's not just to them. They don't have, I don't know. That's all I want to say.
I'm not sure of everybody's names up there, I'm sorry. One of you had said something like, what is 3 weeks matter, really? Or not, you didn't say it in that words, but you said something like, so what's it going to accomplish? It's going to accomplish a ton of joy in parents, huge amounts in students, and the community. Joy is what it would be brought back. And trust, I would say a little trust in our school, because we have a phenomenal school. We moved here because of this school. We wanted to raise our family here because this is a phenomenal school district. And we've been in a number of different school districts. And we feel very blessed to be here. So you have an opportunity to give joy back to the community, parents, children, teachers, staff. That's what I think everybody wants.
You know, we've been through some very tough times the last couple of years, and I don't have kids here anymore. I did. I don't have a senior. I don't feel your emotion because I'm not that close to it. But I think a couple of things need to be said. I think we have to, our kids look to us. We are the adults. Our kids look to us. And a lot of what determines how they react to something is how we react to something. Could I finish, please? What's that? Okay, Heidi, could I finish, please? Okay, thank you. I would appreciate not being interrupted again. In parenthood, our kids look up to us. And a lot of times they react how we react. And I'm not making light of it because I realize it's very important, it's very emotional, but we're adults and we make tough decisions. And we a lot of times set the tone for our kids. And I think that's important. Other thing I'd like to say, I'm disappointed if there's people that had to send private letters to a board member that didn't feel comfortable coming in and talking to us. That makes me sad. It really does. And I don't know, I hope we learned a lesson that if you got something on your mind, come and talk to us about it. You know, don't send a board member a note and say, don't reveal my name. That has no place in this school operation at all. And if that's here, then we need to eradicate it. So if nothing else tonight, I hope we open up some communication that if you got something going on, bring it. I mean, don't privately tell somebody, I got this issue, but don't let them know I got that issue. If you feel your job is threatened because of that, that's sad, and we have to eradicate that. That's not right. Heidi, if you'd like to say something else, go ahead.
For some sort of variance or something.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to be tested before they can march, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
But
don't tell us as parents that we're overreacting and we're setting a bad tone for our children. Because
Well-
you just got done saying to stand up for ourselves.
I believe,
So we're showing our children, and please don't interrupt me, because
Okay.
I'm speaking now. We're trying to show our children that we're standing up for them. That's our stance, and we're asking for some sort of action to be taken to make sure if they are not COVID positive, they are allowed to march in graduation.
and I appreciate that. And my position is that a lot of times how we react to something affects how our kids react. Olivia, you had one more thing to say?
Yeah, so I'm sure like the younger kids do look up to the parents and the adults of their actions, but I'm here personally because I wanted to be here. I asked my dad to come to like be by my side, but like I'm here to speak my own voice, and you say we should come to you, but like we're just these young students in the high school, and if I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't even know who to go to, where to go to. Like I could probably figure that out, but like that's just, I'm here because I want to be here and I have my own voice, and I'm not, I mean, obviously I agree with my dad because, oh, I was like, there we go, there's my own voice. So yeah, I'm here with him, but like I'm here for me, and I'm here to speak my own voice and my own opinion, so yeah.
Okay.
One more thing to say. And I think, Ken, I think that I am with Heidi. I took what you said very flippantly, and I think that that's wrong. I think that, yes, we do set the tone for our families, and I also try to put a positive tone to my thing. But try to tell your kid, just like they said, oh, you're going to miss this because you were by somebody that was sick or whatever. It's wrong. And not only that, but the kids are going home and being sexually abused, physically abused, and having to put up with that day after day after day when they're home. The sexual abuse, the physical abuse, all of that stuff is sky high in Wexford and Missaukee counties.
I got one thing to say, Kevin. And this comes as an update from what Howard gave us. So this is from our health department. We currently recommend quarantining of all close contact. The definition of close contact is unchanged. That's just a recommendation. Individuals will be released in 10 days. From 11 to 14 days, individuals can continue to self-monitor for symptoms and will continue to adhere to social distancing, face mask requirements, avoidance of all necessary large gatherings. They will not support the 7-day quarantine negative testing. Okay, that's fine too, which is what we're doing. 14 days remains in effect as the best known option for transmitting COVID. But since we are not issuing quarantine orders at this time, schools are ultimately responsible for how they wish to handle the quarantine protocols for students. However, schools are ultimately responsible for health and safety and well-being of students and staff and faculty functions. The school chooses not to notify or staff that may have been exposed to communicable disease or not to quarantine those that could be contagious. We may be liable. Whatever. I deal a little bit with my OSHA at my work. When they say recommend, it's a recommendation. It's not a shall. I don't think we have to shall. Shall means you have to. They're not issuing quarantine orders from our health department. Whatever.
Okay.
Mr. Biller, sorry to put you on the spot again. Do you know how many seniors are currently quarantined? In the last week or two, or has it been 0 for a while?
Yeah, it's been 0 for a while.
Do you have any suggestions or recommendations that you would like to see to help these seniors?
Well, I mean, I wish I had the answers to everybody's questions, because my feelings are all over the place, so I have to control what I say right now. Because I feel, I have 4 kids, I'm feeling this too. And so it's very, very difficult for me to be a leader right now with following everything that we have to follow, but we could potentially, have something, we did something with our senior trip, it was voluntary, graduation's treated very similar, but it's, I don't require kids to walk at graduation, just like I didn't require everybody to go on a senior trip, or an event and things like that. So if we deviated from anything like that, it would have to be something that we'd look through and through the lens of, not just me, but we would need to have some kind of assurance about public safety. So my guess is we could treat it similar to that, but I'm not sure about how that all works. Again, this is not a bridge I've crossed before, so. I think it might have been misspoken. It was MH, or, thank you, the health department. It's the health department. The letters were just, I think, misspoken.
Okay. This time, public comment is closed. Appreciate you all coming out tonight and giving us your feedback. This time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and support. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion to adjourn.